Hello everybody and welcome to a little bit late of a matchup of the week game. We've got Ianediger, is that even how you pronounce it? Ianediger versus Dorrin314 in what looks to be a pretty good fight. Team tournament, Rebels versus Imperials. We've got both sides are playing opening salvo, and I gotta figure out who's player one because I just got in. Stand by. Looks like Dorrin is first player and has chosen opening salvo. And more importantly, that means that Ianediger, who had initiative, has chosen to go second. And we can see the deployment so far. We've got everyone moving in to give a broadside on the victories. Well, meanwhile, the victories and the ISD are just moving forward at speed 1. Looking over each side's ships real quick. Dorrin has Admiral Akbar loaded up onto an assault frigate Mark II-B. It also has gunnery teams. There's an MC-80 with engine techs, electronic countermeasures, and Home 1. And also 3 CR-90As, all with turbo laser reroute circuit. No squadrons to be seen. Meanwhile, Dorrin's list. Grand Moff Tarkin on board an Imperial Star Destroyer 2. Gunnery team, heavy turbo lasers and intel officer on board for offense and ECM on board for defense. And then both of his victories have tactical captain or tactical officer, and also quad laser turrets, which we'll not really see here in this game, and slaved turrets, which means that they only get 1 attack per turn. And then he's also got 3 TIE interceptors, and we'll see those come into play before too much longer, I think. Probably trying to make some bombing runs as best they can. And it'll be an interesting thing to see if Dorrin even bothers doing anything to those interceptors, because they're going to average about 1.5 damage per round. But using Akbar, he may not have the opportunity to shoot them with very many of his ships. And those ships will need an average of 5 or so attacks, 5 to 6 attacks just to bring down any given interceptor. So you can see we're already most of the way through the first turn here, with the 4th activation coming into play. The corvettes for Dorrin moving around, going speed 2, presenting a broadside. And we're going to see his assault frigate finish things up. Don't really have the graphics up for it, but we can chat a bit about the keys for the game. The keys for this matchup are going to be closing speed, basically how fast Ianediger is able to get his big guns into the fight. Now he's already sped his ISD up to speed 2, and he's still got the victories at speed 1, so he's probably planning on turning them kind of tight around the toilet bowl as it circles around him. He's chosen to go second. That's our second key to the matchup, is initiative. He did have initiative and he chose to go second. He's probably banking pretty heavily on opening salvo being able to knock out a ship or two and bring this matchup a little bit more in his favor. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And I didn't have this written down in the preview, but the other key to the matchup is how quickly Ianediger can knock those Corvettes out of the fight. Those Corvettes, pound for pound or point for point, they have the most damage that they can deal out of any of the ships. That's where a lot of Dorrin's strength is going to come from, and it will be very much up to Ianediger to try and get one of those knocked out of the fight before Dorrin can really pour the hurt down and knock out one of his ISDs. And there we've seen the assault frigate also peel around, and every single ship now is lined up for a broadside. And now we're going to see some squadron play here. Looks like he's moving his TIE interceptors essentially on a long speed intercept course with those CR90s, hoping that they'll accelerate and crash into the interceptors so that the interceptors can get shots for the next round. And that brings us on to round 2. So what we're looking at here in terms of trades, Dorrin's 2 big ships are the MC-80 Home 1, which is worth 128 points. That's by far his biggest ship on the board, with his Assault Frigate Mark II clocking in at 117 because of Akbar being aboard. So in terms of points per hull, his Assault Frigate Mark II is the biggest prize. for amount of damage needed to be dealt for the reward that he gets, but the MC80 Home 1 is kind of a linchpin of the strategy, giving accuracies out to the Corvettes. And not only that, but still worth a decent amount. The 3 CR90 Corvette A's are just generic CR90As with turbo laser reroutes, each of those 51 points each. Now, on the other hand, Ianediger, each of his victory ones come in at 90 points. So if he can trade a victory for basically any 2 CR90s, or he could trade them 1 for 1 for one of the other 2 big ships, that's a positive. The danger that he runs into is his Imperial 2 is a whopping 184 points. It's a big point value ship. He absolutely cannot afford to lose that one. Plus, he also has those 3 TIE Interceptor squadrons at 11 points each, so 33 points in fighters that may or may not actually get shot at. All right, both players are set. It looks like we're ready to continue on with round 2. Dorrin will have to reveal first. Looks like it's going to be Delta. That'll be his far ship. Oh, no, never mind. Everyone activated all at once. Oh, God. And that, boys and girls, is why you don't select everything at once to change your dials. So it looks like he's actually activating Alpha. His flagship is the furthest out from the fight and the least likely to be able to get a shot in. So he's going to have that activate first and bank the concentrate fire token. That's going to give it a concentrate fire and a navigate banked. It looks like Tarkin tokens were concentrate fire and engineering. And only the flagship was not able to bank its token because it had to speed up to speed 2. So the flagship continues to move around. An interesting obstacle deployment. Question is, who set up which obstacles? So I would definitely guess that the station was set up by Dorrin, because I can't imagine anyone willingly handing the station over to the rebel side of the field. So, which other obstacles got put down and when? Looks like the flagship will go next. It will have some shots, at least on the corvettes. At least one of those will be obstructed, but maybe not the other one. Maybe turbos are really not going to do much with no brace. But with an intel officer, you may be able to at least keep it from redirecting or wanting to redirect. And there's that first concentrate fire. Concentrate fire to re-roll the red. Comes up blank. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total damage. We'll see if he intels officer on this one. I feel like that's probably a decent idea. Intel's a very good decision. And he will intel the redirect. I'll put an awful big hurt onto that corvette, regardless of anything else. At the very least, it'll strip the shields and the redirect. And yep, that's what Dorrin will do. So we're going to see 4 damage splashed around his hull zones. Most likely front and side. Sure enough. Still a fairly devastating hit. He can't complain that badly. This one will be obstructed. Well, at least it pings 1 damage in. At least 1 damage after the evade. And Gamma not only evades, but also redirects, splashing that damage to the front shield. And now to see where exactly that ISD winds up. Oh, that's not right. Someone pressed a button they weren't supposed to. And he's going to slow down to stay at red range of the MC-80. But still sticking his neck out there good for quite a bit of fire onto his flagship. Beta will be the next ship. That's the lead CR-90. We'll see it burn its token to open up on the ISD. It looks like an unobstructed shot, but just barely. A little bit of discussion about how to rehide dials. And there we go. Dials are hidden again. Gonna get some shooting done now with the concentrate fire, or the opening salvo out of the CR-90A. It's going to be one red and Akbar and the token. So we're going to see a lot of red dice flying out of this guy. Yeah, we can bet heat Akbar. No reason not to. It'll be a total of 5 red when all is said and done. And then he'll have the opportunity to add an extra red with his concentrate fire token. Or dial, rather. ISD does have electronic countermeasures, so it can burn to use that brace. So you might as well home one here, because that brace is going to go off anyway, but at least you can block down the redirect. And it won't actually cost you any damage. Yeah, and that's what he will do. So instead of 6 being reduced to 3, it'll be most likely 5 reduced to 3. And we will most likely see this splashing all against the front arc, but drop down in damage. And Ianediger holding on to his tokens. And just using the contain, taking that 5 damage right to the front there, burning off his shields, and eating a single point of hull damage. And then away it will go. We're most likely going to see it trying to stay at a distance. Let's see where he winds up. He could speed up to 3, but that would get him a little too close. He's actually better off staying at speed 2 if he wants to maximize his distance away. He doesn't have any more redirects, but he doesn't have any hull damage either. So he can at least get some evades against those victories, although most likely, even with that turn, both victories are going to be able to blast at him. Ooh, and he will actually maneuver in such a way that he is outside of red range. So good shot. Some really good navigation by Dorrin there. And that'll force one of the 2 victories to go next. A good job at playing keep away. And it's creating a little bit of a traffic jam for the CR90s behind it. We'll have to see where they wind up. Looks like we are seeing speed up on the part of the victories. We're going to attempt to get in front of the fight here. At least that one is. They'll have some good shots lined up for next turn. Well, shot, since it only gets 1. Interesting quirk about opening salvo that's occurred right now. The fact that you get half points at the end of the game for any enemy ship that has at least one damage card means that technically, at the moment, Dorrin is in the lead, 60-0, as that ISD has some damage, and none of Dorrin's ships do. And now we see that he's created a little bit of an issue with his other victory. He's really run out of places to put it if he doesn't want to go smashing through the rock, which the rock in question is more of a debris, so we could get away with it. We'll line up some shots with the victory. Still some shooting left to be done. And that actually puts that victory in prime shooting position for the other CR90 if it wants to waste its token, splitting its fire between the ISD and that victory, which is probably what Ianediger was going for. So here comes the shot. We'll see 2 red, no Akbar, and 2 additional red from the opening salvo. Whew, that's a blistering shot. You can spin that up. That'll be 8 damage total. And becomes 7 damage with home 1 and brace blocked. That is, oof. That is a painful shot. Not even able to eat it all on his shields. He'll take the face-up crit, and that face-up crit means that we are looking at points scored for damage being on that victory. And with that shot, he's forced to maneuver and doesn't really have too terribly good places to go. We'll see him most likely going right there and continuing along the Corvette path as the ISD and Victory converge upon the MC-80. Speaking of which, the MC-80 still needs to go and has itself an interesting conundrum. Well, not as big of a conundrum. I thought it might have double arced that ISD too, which may have made it wind up being a better idea to take 2 shots at the ISD too instead of just 1 and force it to burn multiple defense tokens. But as of right now, if it's only got 1 shot, it might as well maximize the potential. Of course, the ISD still has electronic countermeasures up. So we're going to get an Akbar shot. It's a command cruiser, so it'll be 3 red plus 2 from Akbar minus 1, so 4 total. And then we'll see an additional 2 from the from the token, and an additional 1 from the concentrate fire. And that's an extra accuracy for those of you at home that can't quite see it. So not enough accuracy to stop really anything that the ISD wants to do with it. So 5 damage that can be braced down to 3 and redirected to either side. But he's not even going to bother with the redirect, he's just going to contain it. Never mind, he's going to block the brace and the contain. And Viperus is going to brace, and I would guess redirect. Yeah, sure enough, that's what he's going to do. And he'll throw it all to the left shield zone. And we have the most pointless critical for this list on the Victory. Point defense failure. When attacking a squadron, remove 1 dice. On one hand, it does absolutely neuter quad laser batteries, making the counter attack from counter 1 to counter effectively 0. But on the other hand, there's no squadrons to shoot at, so who cares? When one moves, overlaps the station nicely, more or less obstructing any sort of shot. And we're not going to see any kind of shooting out of the squadrons this turn. Probably see them move to a spot where they can continue to screen. Well, maybe they're not going to go and screen where the CR90s will go. They're going to go hunt down that assault frigate. And that brings us on to the third turn. Only tokens remaining are on the assault frigate and the far CR90 for Dorrin, and both victories still have theirs for Ianediger. What token are we going to see come out this turn? And the Tarkin token for the turn is a Concentrate Fire. And yes, Viperous Dorrin is the first player. We are playing with opening salvo. Ianediger's objective. Not sure what the other two objectives were. And here at the start of the third turn, the score, as it currently sits, is 97 points for Dorrin, having damaged the ISD-2 and the Victory. And a 0 points for Ianediger, who has yet to put a damage card onto any ship. Though he is really threatening to do so on one of the CR90s. All right, Dorrin is now set. Ready to start round 3. So again, going over the key points to the match. We've already seen Ianediger use that initiative to his advantage to go second, which really helps him with potentially taking one of these guys off the board. That being said, we still have to wait to see if he can do so. For other key points, specifically the first key point, Ianediger has managed to get some closing speed in. He's getting his guns to bear, but he's taken 3 shots to the 2 that he's returned fire with. Now those 2, the first one did a considerable amount of damage to that CR90, the lead one there, Beta. That being said, he should have all of his guns on the target this turn. But Dorrin has been responding vigorously. And finally, he really wanted to take one of those CR90s off the board last turn. He's going to really have to pick up the speed and pace and get one off the board this turn if he wants to have any chance of keeping his ships flying. That is very much going to hurt. So 6 damage splash, locking down the brace token. This may be a good time to ECM anyway and bring it back down to 3, and it's a little bit more manageable. Instead, it's just going to redirect and take the damage face down. No additional points for Ianediger, as there was already damage, but with that being said, that is almost certainly points that are going to be still around at the end of the game in one way, shape, or form. One thing we can be fairly certain of is that CR90 is not going to survive. Yeah, he probably will. Still, given how CR90s are typically flown, dying in exchange for blasting 6 damage onto an ISD is more or less what they're there for. And this one did more than just 6 damage to an ISD, so respectable. Might be considering a ram here, since he's more or less dead anyway. Although, he's not going to be doing it like that. Yeah, he could. That's the problem. He doesn't quite have the angle to get that ram in. Doesn't have the speed to do it at 2. Doesn't have the yaw to do it at 3. Honestly, his best bet for this CR90 is to use that CR90 to get out of the assault frigate's way. Or he'll just park it there. That works too. In this case, the very best that he can do with the CR90 is to eat that concentrate, or to eat that opening salvo token, which is almost certainly something that he wants to do. It's going to be a long-range shot for the Musashi if it wants to try and take out Gamma, which it has a pretty decent shot at doing. Well, now, that's interesting. You don't have to red the concentrate fire. You could red the black from opening salvo. But that'll be more than enough anyway. And that'll bring the score to 51 to 97. Not sure I entirely agree with that being the shot taken. I think opening up on Gamma would probably have been a better decision, seeing as how it hadn't activated yet. And you could still take that shot with the Harakaze. I think that may have been a mental error there by Dorrin. The Musashi comes in, coming in to cluster in front of the MC-80. So it looks like they're going to try and bring that MC-80 down as best they can. That being said, there's still a lot of ships with the Musashi with guns on it. And he didn't quite escape the MC-80's side arc. I really think that was a mistake, not gunning for Gamma there. He could have had 4 red and 3 black on Gamma on the front arc. And that may have been enough to do it. Only would need 7 damage total after the evade. Or only 5 if an accuracy was rolled. And for that matter, he forgot to spend his engineering, so excited to shoot, that he forgot to spend his engineering token for some extra shielding. Some mental errors going into that round. And there's Gamma with concentrate fire. It'll almost certainly be pouring into the Musashi here. Sure enough. There's the accuracy that'll stop the brace, and they'll be able to spin that up into 4 damage total. So that'll be another critical onto the hull of the Musashi. Ooh, he was going for double accuracies there. Is he going to burn one for another accuracy? There's really no point unless he wants to lock down the... No, he's not. He definitely is just going for the brace. Makes sense. That'll be 5 damage across. And that'll be 1 face up damage card, 1 face down. Damage controls will add a face down damage card in addition to any effects for overlapping a obstacle or ship. So now Musashi, which is in the position of being a blocker is very much affected by that. Let me try to keep this out of that front arc. Haven't been given the gift of not being shot at by the Musashi. He probably wants to stay out of the Harikaze's front arc. That'll keep him alive a little bit longer. Almost certainly willing to let his assault frigate eat that opening salvo shot. Still debating it, though. That should get him out of the front arc. We're going to go with the ISD next. Also concentrating fire. We'll be able to get off a pair of shots. One at the MC-80 and one at that CR-90. And it'll take the MC-80 first. Into blue range. So it should get its full complement. -1 for the obstruction. Looks like he removed the red and added it back with the concentrate fire dial. Though he didn't announce it. And he'll block the brace. ECMs will give the brace again, and that'll be 4 damage applied. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. The flagship does not have heavy turbo lasers. It also has quad laser cannons. I saw green on a card from far away and just assumed. And again, not remembering to use that engineering token to repair anything means that no shields are recovered by the Graf Spree, which in turn is going to hurt when it bumbles forward into that rock. Got some small mental mistakes Ianediger that are really starting to add up against him. Especially if he was intending on targeting some free engineering tokens next turn, which is probably a thing he's going to wish he did. One does eat the I think he did the wrong shield though. And there we go. Took the rear shields for the damage and discarded his brace. So no more bracing for home one. That could be problems going forward. But no damage goes through. And here's the second shot. Going to be front on the side. Not a particularly impressive roll there. At least he can block the green evade and make the red one go away forever. Or at least get that damage across. I think Delta may be able to just end the Musashi with its next attack. And there go the shields. Although that should obstruct any shots at all. But I think any shot was going to be obstructed anyway by the station. Delta should be able to finish off the Musashi right here and now. And if it does, that'll be a solid 90 points that it doesn't have to worry about getting repaired out of. Not that Musashi was going to be able to repair anything anyway. The question here is are they going to Akbar, or are they just going to count on being able to deal 5 damage straight up? Because they could still get some extra shots. He's going to Akbar. That's not a particularly good roll. Be able to concentrate fire to add the 1. Then he'll be able to spin up another. That'll be the 5 damage he needs. And he'll be able to block the brace, which is the only thing that matters. Goodbye, Musashi. A very good set of trades for Dorrin there. The question is, will he be able to splash the Graf Spree? There's a pretty good chance he can do that before it gets another activation, with Home 1 parked right there. We're going to see a big roll here. Well, which shot is it going to be? You can put some pretty good shots onto Gamma, maybe get that removed from the board. And he's going for the assault frigate. Not really sure about that, but really wants that assault frigate dead. Also, I really feel like declaring the concentrate fire red and not declaring whether or not he's using the token until after the roll may not be the best way of doing things. And then he blocks the evade. Now, with that and 5 damage, it can be braced down to 3. Or with that and 7 damage, it can be braced down to 4. If he blocked the brace, on the other hand, it would be 5 damage cleared through, because he could only evade the double. Not liking this strategy here. Because now he can brace it down to 4 and scatter it across his front shields. or at the very least split it evenly between the front and side. Not going to be any damage coming across. So that'll be braced down to 4. And then redirected. We'll see how it gets redirected here. I'm thinking he wants to keep some shields on the front just in case those ties get fancy. It's true, I was a mathlete. 7th and 8th grade, middle school, we had what was called math counts, where kids that were really good at math sat down and took a test, multiple tests, over the course of a day, and saw how well they compared to other kids in the county. And then the best kids in the county got to go and participate at the state level, and placed 5th at the county, and then just got absolutely crushed at the state. So, and that was when I was in 8th grade. I was the alternate in 7th grade. So, that's my mathlete story. While personally disgusting, at least it's not as disgusting as the apple butter. Alright, looks like home one's going to be doing some repairs. Repairs its shields. And then it's going to get cracking on the ISD, I'm guessing. Sure enough. It's going to want to do between 4 and going to want to do 4 damage after the brace here to really pour the damage on next turn. And I think it's got it. 8 damage total. That's rolled. That's going to be more than enough. Well, that was obstructed, though. So he rolled that wrong. So that was still 4 damage gone through. Having a little bit of a discussion with someone who didn't realize that there was a station underneath that MC-80 in private chats. And we're going to see a slash. Woohoo! We're actually going to see a slash next turn. Zafra Akbar slashes. Although Ianediger's not going to enjoy that. And indeed, the dice gods could be kind, because Akbar really doesn't have anything on him that could improve his rolls. So it's going to be whatever he rolls. Dice gods got to really be kind to not have 3 damage pop through on the ISD. Alpha gives a repair command, regenerates some shields and moves some shields around. So he's back up to 3 on the sides that are actually going to take some damage. And I think we're going to see him use his final blast here. I think though we skipped someone. No, we didn't. Just the Harikaze never removed his token. And just as an aside, that was me that pressed the undo button while it was up after I moved the station to show that it was there. So, my bad. Whoops. That's why there's a line of sight tune tool. And home one manages to sneak in, and oh, that's going to be absolutely murderous. 7 red, 1 blue. No TRCs on this, but he does get to home one in accuracy, which should get rid of the brace. And sure enough. Absolutely brutal anti-ship spread for Dorrin. Something that I may have to bring to the table against someone I never want to play again. Oof. And that's just painful. So that'll be 7 damage, scattered through 2 hull zones. And that is why I like physical tokens next to my dial, so I can remember what I'm doing. And why I also like not declaring my dials until after I do my initial rolls. I may screw up a lot of things, but at least that's not usually one of them. And that'll be a damage to the hull, because 7 damage can't be splashed completely through the hull zones. And with that in mind, that final damage will add another 37 points to the total. For injured crew means he discards one of his redirects, keeping the second redirect in brace. And looks like he's going to go and bumble his way into those TIE interceptors. That being said, I'm not entirely sure he cares. So as we bring this round to a close, it looks like at least one overlap there. And as we bring this round to a close, let's go back and look over those keys to the game. And those keys, we definitely had Ianediger attempt to use the initiative to his advantage by choosing player 2, which I don't think too many people expected, and forcing his objectives to be used. Well, that being said, that hasn't really turned out all that well to him, so I think we can chalk that up as a negative in his camp. And the other key points, namely getting those corvettes off the board before they do too much damage, I don't think that we can say he's been particularly successful, seeing how there's still 2 Corvettes flying. And one of his victories and soon his ISD really aren't. His big hope now to score some points or to get some damage through onto Akbar's ship. Speaking of Charlie ties and pig number 3s, a funny joke, seeing as how everyone knows pig number 3, a funny joke might be to actually number pigs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually have a pig number 3, but kind of hide it. So everyone gives up after looking and finding 1, 2, and 4, while pig number 3 is still on the loose. Just a thought. Hi, people. There's actually people in chat. I forgot to tab over and actually check to see. Hi, guys. Nice of you to be watching at work. And not a whole lot of damage from those interceptors, as we kind of expected. And now comes a little bit of pain. Although on the plus side, we get to see an Akbar slash. So, fun for us Rebel players. Imperials right now are sitting here cringing. So here at the start of turn 4, we've got the score Dorrin, who's Rebel. All the opening salvos have been used. Dorrin is currently leading 187, which counts half credit for the victory, as it has damage in it, and half credit for the ISD because it also has damage in it. Ianediger, on the other hand, has 51 points for taking out one of the Corvettes, but has no hull damage dealt to any of the ships. And we're going to see an MC-80 activation here. And there we go, home 1. Repairs its shields. It's now back up to full. Though probably won't once it crashes into that obstacle there. And oh yes, it's going to Akbar. And that'll do it. That's 3 damage, and not much that he can do about it. And that'll finish off the big boy. So that's minus 60 because it's no longer damaged, and plus 184 for actually killing the thing. Well, that didn't add up right. Oh, never mind, it does. Because there's still half damage. There's still half points for damage on the other victory. Harikaze hangs on by a thread. And also takes 5 damage. It can no longer attack obstructed ships. So now the question is, what more can the Harikaze do to actually get some points out of this game? Because things are rapidly not going its way. I mean, right now, just by splashing 1 Corvette, it's done enough to keep it to 9-1. So it's not going to be a 10-0 victory by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't really think there's a good way for him to really claw any more points out of this. Maybe he can attack Gamma and hope for 4 points to knock a hull damage in. I don't think he's going to pull off enough damage on the assault frigate to get any points out. He does have that engineering token. Probably his best bet is to move 2 shields. And he'll move them both to the front. I think it might have been better served by splitting them evenly. And he's going to go after the assault frigate instead. His best bet is to be able to get to somehow roll 5 damage and be able to block the redirect. Well, that's not going to do it. That is definitely not going to do it. And that's probably the last change in score we're going to see. Not including the victory blowing up dramatically. Not sure why the dice was jumping around like that, but doesn't really matter. Doesn't even have the speed. Maybe he has the... Oh, yeah, it doesn't have the speed to ram. And that'll probably be all she wrote once we get those CR90s activated. Even if he could ram, there was enough of a repair command keyed up that would have repaired the ramming damage. Well, doesn't get home 1 for this shot, but he's got more than enough damage otherwise from the CR90s, even after this shot. Yeah, you can see the writing on the wall. He might as well call it. Fair enough. Well, that's not quite everything locked down, but that could be enough. 4 damage, block the brace. You can only redirect 1. And he's not even gonna contest it. So that'll end it. 400 to 51 in favor of Dorrin. Who, yes, his dice were hot, but he had a lot of modifiers to those dice to make them that way. Some issues with Ianediger. I really think that he might have kept the score a little bit closer by going after more corvettes and not fixating on the flagship the way that he did. Particularly when he gave up on using a concentrate fire token, or the opening salvo token, to shoot at an already activated corvette instead of going after the damaged Gamma. Which he may have been able to swat out of the sky. That would have kept his middle victory alive a little bit better. The deployment did have him running into his own ships, which definitely didn't help things. I did not see the deployment, though, so I can't really judge how well the deployment did or did not go. Yeah, I don't think all 3 ties are going to be able to, even if they do, they're still redirects. And I think we're going to end it at this. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you missed part of it, well, so did I. But at the very least, you can tune in from more or less the start of turn 1. And it'll be up on YouTube shortly. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody.